Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle, your host once again. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment if you want to. Check out our website at www.legendssuperstitionmountains.com. Thank you for all the great feedback. This week, we're going to do something that's been requested. Now, we've done a little bit of various back, behind the scenes and different things, but people always say, what's the 10 greatest finds? What's Wayne's greatest finds in the mountains and stuff? And you kind of struggle with it because there's different things. Is it places? Is it this or it's that? So I took it as things that I've been able to retrieve from the mountains or I've received. So I wanted to kind of do that, but I didn't want to be like, oh, yeah, I found this really cool book or manuscript somewhere. So it had to be basically things show and tell. So this is, I guess, Legend of Superstition Mountains show and tell of a number of artifacts. Now, some of them you'll see them in videos. Some of them actually have a video that we've done and you'll be able to see it. But this kind of, and this is in no way a top 10, but this is the 10 things that I kind of thought kind of rose to the top of the list and all. First one is we were looking for Bob Ward's, or the DeGrazia paintings under Bob Ward's maps. There's a total of 4 or 5 maps we've acquired, and we were out digging in one spot, and suddenly next thing, and it's on video somewhere, I can't remember which exactly one, but it's when we're in Fish Creek, or actually along Lewis and Pranny, and we were on the, I'd say, north side of Lewis and Pranny, and shovel comes up, and this lighter, old lighter comes up. Frank was supposed to fix it and make it workable again. We don't know whose it was. It could have been a worker's, could have been Bob Ward's, could have been Ted DeGrazia's while they were drinking up there. But we found this in actually really, really good condition. It was really odd, but it was very soft dirt. We thought, oh, they dug something. They buried something here. And Trevor was actually with me, and I'm doing that. And then I was like, what is that? And it came out with a shovelful because I saw something kind of shine as it came out. So this lighter, very cool find. Held on to that. We don't know who to attribute it to, but again, it was buried. So someone dug something up, and this must have fallen out and fell into the hole when they were reburying it or filling the hole in or whatnot. Pretty cool thing. The next one is one that would be out a little distant, but is related to the Dutchman, and it is this. And it's an old Prince Albert can. It was, at one time, tobacco can. And it had claim papers in it. We were out by Albert Schaefer's cabin along the Hassayampa, and I found this kind of with old wire tied to a stick that was buried in some rocks. And it was just, wow, that's a cairn. I wonder if there'd be mining claim papers in there. And there was. In the bottom side, they're not there anymore. No sign of them. But this was out there by Albert Schaefer's claim. It's very possible it could go back to the 1920s, late 19s and the early 1920s when he was there before he died. The papers in it actually had got so much moisture and it had compressed that it became basically particle board. So I got it out and it was just like this weird chunk of almost wood coming out. There was nothing I could see legible on it. I got them in a bag somewhere. I put it in a bag and sealed it just in case there'd be some way to retrieve it. But every time you tried to mess with it at all, it just flaked into like 50 little tiny pieces that were illegible. But that was very cool that it was on an old mining claim paper, and it was right on the site of his cabin and his mining claim. So I'm pretty good guess. I guess we could say 80-85%. This is probably Albert Schaefer and John Begg's mining claim papers they had. This next one is a story I talked about. I was up on Bluff Springs Mountain, and I had stopped. I was actually glassing for deer, doing some scouting up there, unrelated. And I was just on this flat open area, and I was smoking a cigarette and thinking about where else I wanted to go and looking around, just enjoying the day. And I looked down, and there were several pieces of this quartz that had been hand cobbed and knocked out You can see that it's got little pieces missing out of it where they've chunked it out, but it's ore from a mine, very heavy in quartz matrix and so forth. Nothing like it up there. So I don't know if it fell out of a pack saddle or where it came from, but there was nothing in the area but these few pieces that were just next to each other, just laying there on the ground. Partially covered in dirt, but I found those. But that was very cool. So had me and Randy right up there a number of times trying to figure out if we could ever figure out the source of where someone had pulled this stuff out or they dug it out. We never did. I've not found something that matches it ever, so I don't know where it came from up there, but somewhere on the southern end of Bluff Springs, we pulled this up. No photographic record or anything. I think the day I was there, I just picked it up, put it in my pocket, put all the pieces in my pocket, and just kept going and thought about it. And then I went back and looked thoroughly, never found another piece. Very, very cool piece. The next thing, we're going to talk about a gentleman, and his name was Bill. He was up searching up in the area of Whiskey Springs, and they found a foundation of what they felt had been some sort of place. They were thinking it was Jacob Waltz's 2-room stone house or something. And they started camping in there. I think they were digging the fire pit. And they came out with this buried underneath there, laying there perfectly flat. The reason I ended up with it, I didn't discover it, was the family of Bill weren't sure what to do with it. So what they basically did is they packed up all his research and audio tapes and interviews he did with himself, talking into a tape recorder. They sent everything to me to be put into the archives for the Historical Society and asked me to take possession of this heart and do with it what I felt fit. They said if I wanted to, I could return it to the mountains. I know the exact area and rebury it, or I could just put it someplace somewhere in the mountains. And I haven't decided yet, but yeah, it still sits and it sits there. It's a very nice thing, but yes, very interesting story. They were just in there digging around and setting camp up, decided to set camp there because they felt they were close to the Lost Dutchman Mine. And this was laying perfectly flat there on the ground, and they found it, and they felt this had something to do with the stone maps in their search. But it is kind of, it's hard to say if it's natural or not. It does look like it was manipulated a little. It's very, very interesting, though. Next one's not necessarily treasure, and I left gold, that type of thing, out of here, saying, oh, this is some gold we found and all, because that's kind of afterthought and all. This is very cool because it's interrelated. It's the only small liquor bottle that I found at Bob Ward's that hadn't been shot. I actually have I have a beer bottle that was up from Fish Creek that might have been DeGrazia and Ward's, but this one's even cooler. Every one of these was shot, blown to 100 pieces, but I found one intact one right across south of the cabin. It was kind of buried a little bit, and I pulled that out and was like, man, that's so cool that I found that. And I think we actually have, it might be on film, not when I found it because no one was with me, but when I came back over and was talking about it. That was a very, very cool find because it gives me a little piece of Bob Ward history right there to carry on. The next one we're going to talk about, you know that one, you've seen it. It was a caught on film in the actual moment it happened. And I don't have them all here, but I got a handful of them. These are the silver dollars from back in the 1880s up to about 1900 that we found at Burns Ranch. And that was a purely, I looked down, thought someone had dropped a quarter, went to pick up the quarter because I just saw an edge of it. And then I picked it up, and then right on camera, I'm like, oh, holy crap, what have we found here? And really good condition. There was pieces of glass in there and all that. Someone since then has said they found part of one of the jars. I think it was part of the lid and the upper part of the jar or something. But very cool. We found these. There was $50 pieces, the silver dollars, a few other coins, and Frank got one of these. I know Woody Wampler now owns one of these. He got one in the raffle at the Rendezvous. Very, very cool. It's the only treasure I know that's actually really came out of Burns Ranch, and we were very fortunate to catch that on camera. That was an odd and unusual thing. Everybody loves the hearts, so got to bring this big boy in. We were in Fish Creek Canyon, and it's actually on video. Trevor, Tyler, myself, and Frank were there. We were at our normal lunch spot under a mesquite tree. A lot of people have been down in there familiar with the spot. There's some grinding holes. And we always commented on the rocks that people had piled up in different places and stuff. And when we're sitting there talking, Frank noticed this one big flat rock, and he decided to flip it over. And he flipped it over. It had been kind of underneath this flat rock. There had been 3 or 4 rocks holding it above this little concave, little shallow spot. And inside of it was this. It's been manipulated. It's when you take a close look at it. And it is a big, giant heartstone that was laying in there. We got that on film. It was a very cool moment. What was kind of neat about this was when we found it, was we went across and Frank said, well, I think it orients this way. And then we found an old blaze on a tree that was directional. And we ended up finding where people had been working an old silver deposit up on the ridge. So we don't know. I've never felt this was related to the silver deposit. I think it was related to something else. I don't know. I've never been able, through all the different manuscripts, notes, and material with Bob Ward, ever to figure out if he put that there, what the reasoning was. But it does seem like a very Bob Ward thing that he would do to kind of like get people kind of like out there and looking for something. But on everything he has, I can't find anything that interrelates to it. Now, we're getting down, and we're getting to the last objects, and I'm going to give everybody a pause and let them think, what could be the next object? We're out in Bluff Springs, Randy Wright and myself, coming up the western side of Bluff Springs, and as we worked our way up, I could see over, there was a little indentation of a spot that looked like it might have a little flat shelf. Randy was probably about 30, 40 yards above me to my left. And I told him, I said, keep moving over, go to your right. And he's going over, slipping around, knocking rocks down towards me. I said, I want you to look around there because there was something nagging me. It was like, you need to look over on that area. Now, we're up on those cliffs, and what we were doing was paralleling and zigzagging and trying to look into every alcove and hole and every possible spot. Randy got up there, and I heard the typical Randy Wright, holy shit. And then something came flying through the air down the mountainside at me. I jumped out of the way, looked down, and it was this. It's a very old knife. The handle obviously was probably wood. It's broke off. The tip is broke on it. We don't know if they cast it off or if it broke. It's stamped 1910. This is the exact condition it was in back then. But I also cursed Randy out slightly. There was something on the end because it has 2 little holes on it, so there was probably something there that knobbed on the end of it. But a nice little knife. Don't know whose it was. John Burbridge, Barry Storm, George Columborn, Herman Petrash. There was a number of people up there working in that exact area. So I always realized, you know what? It probably identifies with someone. It probably more likely fell out than anything else, and later they noticed it was missing and couldn't retrieve it, and it probably fell down onto that little ledge area. But very cool find. One of those sixth sense moments where you're just like, hey, look around there. And he was not happy having to kind of work his way over the ridge over that way, but when he got there, this was a very cool find. He'll remember that, bringing that out of the mountains. The next one I want to bring up, I think is very cool because it was in Fish Creek again. We find a lot of stuff in Fish Creek. I found a number of different things. There was a silver dollar I found there, because I already did some silver dollars. But, and I know we did a couple hearts, but this one was very cool because it was a little cubby hole. I did a video showing this cubby hole and where I went. I put my hand in. I was reaching back. I took a stick at first and could hear something crunching around. It turned out to be papers that I destroyed in doing that. But I had to reach way back in. Couldn't see. You couldn't see with a flashlight because it went around kind of curved. And I reached in and I pulled out, was like a bunch of cloth and stuff. I thought it might be a dead animal, so I was thinking, oh, this is going to suck. But I got the stuff out, and it was like an old piece of cloth, had stuff wrapped in it, and it had this pocket watch in it. And that was very, very cool because Frank was able to date it to the 1880s, and he said he'd get it working for me again. I haven't done that. Again, like with the lighter, he's supposed to get working, but he was supposed to go through and get this working, this timepiece again. Very, very cool. What kind of like made the story even cooler was Tom Columborn really loved the story and where I found the stuff. He researched and went through all his files, and he found there was a prospector that had a camp back in that area that ended up drowning and dying back along the Salt River, and he believed that was his camp and his personal possessions, and he ended up dying and never making it back, and nobody knew where he had been really actually camped, just the general area. And I just happened to find that little cubby hole and find this watch. And that was, I think, around the turn of the century. So very cool thing. Nice. The last thing we'll say is kind of that thing that everybody wants to kind of like has interest in, and we just found it in the last couple of years. I was walking along and I looked down and I'm like, and it was one of those things that's funny that you say, hey, look what I found. And you don't know what it means. You're just like, this is really odd and awkward. And Frank was like totally dismissive of it. And I thought, no, there's something to this. And I think he just kind of thought, nah, it's just a rock. It's just a rock. I don't know if it's just a rock, but it is a pyramid. And we found this, and I've always been kind of intrigued by it. This is the little piece of artifact that's given us so many problems. Hopefully all this comes out well, putting it on camera. We had it, we brought it home, we put it out, and it was on the wall opposite of the junction box. We have a video, we talk about all the problems I had and certain weird things happening with my security cameras. I moved it in the house, put it over by the Wi-Fi router. We had nothing but problems with our Wi-Fi. I moved it from there to a wall where there's no electrical source next to it or anything, and all the problems have stopped. So it sits there. Yes, we're going to have to someday put it down, put it on a transformer, put it on something, see what happens if Trevor walks through the portal and disappears into another dimension. But there you go, and there it is. We also found that there were two of these pulled out, brought out of the spiral staircase, and then once they were brought to the surface, they disappeared. Maybe they were just misplaced. Maybe one was taken and the other one was actually forgotten and left behind. But this seems to fit the example of what they said. I was told by someone else that there was a triangle or a pyramid or something rock that fit into an alcove down in the spiral. And that was kind of interesting. So there we go. Thank you. That's about it for right now. This does have a little bit of crystal. You can't really see it, but it has like sparkles, almost like copper through it. It's really weird kind of thing. Anyways, there you go. We heard some unknown noise while we were talking about this. Perhaps the pyramid has activated something again. We will check it out. I don't look forward to that because that just brings more mystery into the spooky atmosphere of whatever this thing is. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed Chasing Legends this week. Wanted to give you something different. Like I said, we'd had a lot of requests on this stuff, so I wanted to kind of fulfill that request for the audience out there before we get back into a lot of the history and stuff, because we had a few things lined up. But hey, you guys asked for it, we try to hit it. So there you go. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. Hope everybody enjoyed this episode and revisiting some of this stuff. And so just enjoy the rest of your week. We'll catch you probably live on Legends Live next Friday. Even if we have a little technical difficulty, we'll get back around and get to you. So until the next time, always remember I'm Wayne Tuttle, you're not, and this was Chasing Legends.